order.
Right.
Call your brother already to come home, right?
Yeah.
Not anymore, right?
Oh.
And when mom said, when you were supposed to play during the day, mom would say, okay, you need to get out of the house. She'd lock the door and say, come back when the lights are on.
Yeah.
I mean, the days are different.
Yeah,
I mean,
for the night lights anymore. Or my mother always said, like, when the sun go down.
and oh, by the way, you want to eat,
You
you
do
find
that.
somebody's parent that's home that's gonna feed you. Not somebody's coming out with orange peels for you, you know.
I can remember.
That's all I got.
Okay, well, all right, we'll do the pledge today. All
Bye.
right. We pledge allegiance to I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and Tony.
Which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you, Jerry?
Say a prayer?
Yeah.
I'll say it about me, but I would like to pray.
All right. Dear Lord God, in the blessed name of Jesus, we just thank you again for this gathering. We thank you for Civitan and the services that we try to provide and do provide for people who are less and have the less privileges that we do, who are more maybe disadvantaged. We thank you, Lord God, for the people who are here today and all the things that they've done to be of help, so that we can be good citizens in this country, so that we can do good things. And Lord God, we just pray now for our presenter and all that she has for us, and let us take it in and let us learn, and then let us go forth and be better and do what we need to do, and do thanks in all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Well, I'd like to introduce today Karen Vi.
Please.
You already know.
I do.
So I'm not there yet. I will go over the guests first. All right. So, because Tony says so, I'm going to go guests first.
Okay.
All right. So we have Clint, who's a guest, and he was the general manager at Kroger for 30 odd years.
45 to be exact, but who's counting? I started when I
I
was
said
10. That's
30
my
odd.
story. I'm saying.
I said 30 odd, so we're covered. Dr. Ron Fletcher, oncologist. That's, what'd you say? Is he?
Hold
Hold on.
on. And he's going to be our speaker on February 3rd.
And he's gonna be our speaker. It's riveting. You need to come, okay? Plus, we're gonna have a buffet.
Thank you.
That's my attempt. Robin Griffin, you've been here before. I've enjoyed your presentation. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Patrick isn't here. No, he is. Yes, well, you're a member. He's not a guest. He's not a guest. He's a member.
That's Mr. Dr. Fletcher.
Okay.
And then we have it.
And your name is
Special guest, Caroline Troy.
Caroline Troidel. She's Karen's right hand.
Partner, friend, support system, you name it, she's,
We
yeah,
all need
built in
one.
everywhere.
We all
Yeah.
need one. We all
Yes, we
need.
do.
So, thank you all for joining us. I hope you'll join us again. As you can tell, we're a lively group. We like to have fun and talk and enjoy each other's camaraderie and fellowship. Karen, I've met you before with the East End Community Center. I know that your list of accolades and accomplishments are too long for me
Thank
to
you.
provide, but I can tell you that everybody has a copy of it.
Oh, and it's so embarrassing, but I will be okay with that.
So what I would ask is that you present to us and basically tell us what it is that we can do and learn from you. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Good, thank you, and thank you. I appreciate being able to be back here, and I'm gonna speak from down here, if that's okay. Tony asked me if I would do that because I know he is recording it, so I will speak from here. I have a tendency to be a walker when we talk, which was going to ring out just fine because I usually don't stand by a podium, but I'll try to stay still. So I do appreciate the opportunity to come and talk with all of you, and Tony and I had a good chuckle about my little bio there because that was a little bio whenever I had to write it up for someone who had a 4-page vitae who was doing a presentation with me, and Caroline knows Mary too. So it was little. I didn't know it needed to be 2 sentences or so, but I do appreciate the opportunity. And I am Karen By, and I'm the Director of Adult and Family Services at East End Community Services. We also have another name that sometimes people will hear about us if they don't already know who we are, WestCare Ohio. Because about 5 years ago, we became part of the WestCare Foundation, which is actually a national and actually international now organization that does a lot of community service and support systems. And they invited us to be part of their family, and it's been a really good experience for us. We have a lot of really good things that we're able to do for our community, and in fact, even part of being part of a global kind of a program. So if you don't know East End Community Services, we have been around for about 25 years, and we're located on the east side of Dayton, right on Xenia Road. So if you know where the Twin Tower churches are, we're right across the street from there. And we've actually been there the entire time. And our executive director, Jan, was actually the founder and has been with us for that entire time. And Tony knows how wonderful she is. She is our rock, and she's really leading us to do a lot of things. And really, the program I'm going to mostly focus on with you today and tell you a little bit about is really and just an extension of many of the things that she started. We started out actually as an after-school program, Miracle Makers, which is an after-school not only tutorial and academic support, but also social and emotional program for children in kindergarten through 6th grade who attend Western Elementary or any of the other Dayton public schools. I'm going to pass these out in the meantime here. I think there should be enough there. And that's really one of the programs that we started out with. And then also on the east side, just like in some other communities in our area, there were a lot of houses that were blighted. East End, along with a lot of other organizations over in the city, tore down some of those buildings and then built new houses. So there's still 82 houses on the east side of Dayton that we have engagement and involvement with. And there are families and individuals living in those homes who are, many of them, working towards actual ownership of those homes, but also are able to live in a very nice house and have the opportunity to build credit or whatever other things they need. So that's really where we started out. And from there, you'll see in the brochure, we have created a wide number. I think that we have altogether about 16 different programs that we operate, with probably about 35 different funding sources, because funding is always one of our issues that we have as far as trying to keep our programming going, because most of what we do is based on grants or contracts that we have. We don't do billing for Medicaid, Medicare. We're not an insurance provider. We don't do treatment services. But just as a real quick overview of some of the other programs that you'll see in the brochure, we do, as I mentioned, have after-school programming, both at the elementary, middle school, and high school level. We also do workforce development. We have a walk-in off the street neighborhood jobs center, which helps people to do to do resume writing, do some skills development, look and see what kinds of career interests they might have. And then it's also tied into job and family services, and then several other different kinds of workforce programs as well. We have several senior programs that do both educational services and support for seniors who are 55 and over and are living longer lives. And so there's some of the educational things that we do. It's called Aging Mastery, and it's helping them to live better and stronger and more positive lives, since we are all living longer. And then the other one is actually for some of our seniors who are more, some of them are homebound, some of them can't leave their homes because of health conditions. Some of them just maybe are having difficulty, and we have a case manager that goes out and tries to help them resolve problems, whether it's helping them to fix up their house or whether it's something health related. And so we have senior services as well. We also have prevention services that we do, which are programs that we actually go into the schools and do programming and prevention to try helping kids who have been exposed to, especially in a lot of our families now, have been exposed to substance use, mental health, and other kinds of trauma, and then trying to help them to identify those issues and then relieve them. We have a camping program called Camp Mariposa that I would encourage you to take a look at if you don't know that camp. It's a marvelous camp. Our program has actually been used as a model for creating other Camp Mariposas across the country. It's a wonderful camp for kids. We are growing by leaps and bounds in that program and now have a teen camp, which is really exciting. And there are other services and things that, like I said, I encourage you to take a look. But the program that I'm going to talk with you the most about today is something that any of us that live in Dayton or around Dayton, I happen to live on the east side of Dayton, so I'm right here in the community with it, is our peer support services, which are used to address substance use disorder, the opioid epidemic, now also all of the other stimulant drugs and other things that are going on in our community. And we created this program, our peer support services program, really when we were at the height of the opioid crisis. When you think about 566 accidental overdose deaths, and by accidental, meaning that we know that it wasn't someone that was trying to kill themselves through medication or something, but these were people that more than likely overdosed, according to the coroner. While we have certainly, and that was at the height of 2017, well, we certainly have addressed it, and we've increased leaps and bounds in some of the things we've done and the programming we have out there. Last year, we still ended up with 356 deaths, accidental deaths by overdose. And actually, as of the 15th of this month, ironically, 15 overdose deaths since January 1st. So we still have a long way to go. And unfortunately, one of the biggest things that has happened that really has helped to kind of increase this is, of course, our COVID. Because conditions, even if they were normal, if we had things like 566 deaths, adding the trauma, the experiences we have now, sometimes limited access, now you understand, and I'm sure we all do, about why sometimes we're still in the middle of this crisis. And so, again, we're grateful that it's not all those deaths, but we're certainly on the climb back up again this time. So the peer support program is called Peers for Change. And if I had my PowerPoint, I'd be showing you all kinds of nice slides about what peer supporters do. But has anybody heard about peer support or no? I know Caroline does, because she's actually getting ready to do some training in peer support. Yay. And I know Tony, but do anybody else? When you think of peer support, just what do you think about it? If you think of a peer, what's a peer? Person-to-person interaction, right? Whenever we're in court, we are tried by the jury of our peers, right? People that are supposed to be similar to us in some way, right? And relate to us somehow. Well, that is really what peer support is. So thank you for that. If peer support is individuals that have a lived experience and are in recovery from substance use disorder and or mental illness, and they themselves in their recovery and in their ability to see the things that they went through and the experiences they had, see their way to helping others. And while we have fantastic treatment programs in this community, we have really wonderful counselors, we have great doctors, people doing wonderful, marvelous things, great programs, 115 and NOVA and all these other really wonderful programs. Some of the things that we know that has done the most with helping people through treatment has been AA and NA, right? Groups of people where we share a common experience and we have the ability to talk to people. And there's sponsors in AA and NA, somebody that's in their recovery at AA and they want to help you so they can sponsor with you. Most of us have seen TV shows if we have our own personal experience with that. We've seen a show or two where someone's a sponsor. Peers are like that, except they're a step higher than sponsors because peers actually go through a training program to become peer supporters. The state of Ohio, just like they do with a licensed counselor or a social worker or a chemical dependency counselor, have a training program the peer supporters go through, both online and then in-person training. And then they have to have a renewed certificate every 2 years. So they go through additional education. But in that training, they know what it's like to be addicted to any number of substances. And they know perhaps what it's like to have a mental illness, but they don't necessarily know how to talk to somebody else about it. So the majority of what peer support training does is it helps individuals understand what happened to them. So they do have to understand the whole chemical dependency part of it, the impact on the brain, the impact on trauma, all of those things. And then also then how to reach out and help others. We are so proud of our program at East End. For a long time, we were one of the largest peer support programs in the community because we had 5 people at one point working, and many of the other agencies were still trying to find out what peer support was or decide how to utilize it. So we're really very proud of Peers for Change. And right now we actually have 7 people, looking at maybe 8 one of these days, maybe. But our 7 peers, and we have 6 of them are full-time, 1 is part-time right now. And we provide services in 3 different programs. And I want to give you just a kind of a quick example of what those 3 programs are so that you get a little better sense maybe of what a peer supporter does. And by the way, one of the things that was on my slide, one of the most important things that said what a peer supporter doesn't do is work 8 hours a day. Because many of our peer supporters don't necessarily have a day that's a normal day. They don't come in at 8, they don't go home at 5. Many times they work a lot of extra hours, and I try not to as much as I can, but they work very, very different hours because things happen on weekends and evenings, and sometimes they have meetings they take people to at 11 o'clock at night if someone is in a situation where they might need to get to a meeting. We have 3 programs, as I mentioned, and most differences between the 3 programs really come more from where our peers are at in working with individuals in their positioning, and also where the funding comes from. One of our programs is called COSAP. I won't even bother trying to explain what that whole term means, but it's federal funding that comes down into the different communities, and in this case, it comes down to the city of Dayton, and they create opportunities to try and keep people out of the criminal justice system who have addiction, who have and are interested in recovery, and or also have some other challenges in their lives, to try to help them stay out of the criminal justice system, which we know has been overburdened in trying to help people with programming and services, and isn't the best place for someone to find their recovery. And so that's one of the opportunities. We also were trying to, through this money, keeping people from overdosing and dying on our streets like they were. And so we have a program called GROW within it, and that actually stands for Getting Recovery Options Working. And we have a GROW team that we are part of, as well as the Dayton Police Department and the Dayton Fire Department and their EMTs. And this staff are specially trained. And what we do is we were at one point going out for every overdose and trying to respond at that time, and going out with the paramedics and helping to sometimes give people Narcan, sometimes just trying to make sure we were getting people off the street, trying to take them right from there with what we call a warm handoff, where we were actually taking them sometimes to the hospital or to treatment programs or a detox facility. With the sheer number of overdoses that we have, and that's not overdose deaths, that's just the number of overdoses. Most of the time our team can't get there. So we're usually doing now what we call follow-up, and within 24 to 48 hours, if someone has had an overdose, the paramedics and the police know now, they've got lots of training, they deal with it, they take care of it in any way they can. If the person goes to the hospital, there's a peer supporter there, not one of ours, but public health has somebody to help them there. And then we still do follow-up, where we might go to that person and find out how they're doing. Are you interested in going to treatment right now? If they may not be able to be there, if we don't know exactly where they are, we'll find out where family and friends are and make contact with them. We have a little package of materials we take with us and do our very best to give them as much information about community support and advocacy as we can, and trying to help them, so that obviously we don't want them to have another overdose, and we certainly want them not to have to live in the conditions a lot of times that they're in. So that's one of our programs. And in that program, we've added some really new, great, exciting components to it this year. And I sound like exciting, but it is exciting. It's exciting for us because we are looking to being able to get to other populations of individuals. We now have a man who's going in 3 days a week into the Montgomery County Jail, and he's seeing individuals that are in there that are interested in talking to him about getting their lives improved and getting their lives a little bit better, and doing what they can to get in some kind of treatment, either when they get out now, because some of them, quite a few of them are right now in there that are going to be out within a certain period of time, 180 days, something like that, or maybe they're even doing a short sentence. Or even if they're going to prison, our staff person will still meet James and meet with them and try to give them encouragement, trying to tell them, because the wonderful thing about him, and he'll share that if he ever meets you, he was in prison himself. He spent a lot of years in prison, and it was in prison sent by one of the judges we just talked to yesterday. That's where he found his recovery. And it's not an ideal place to find recovery, but he found his recovery there. And when he came out after 10 years, made a decision never ever to use again. And so 16 years later, he quit a really nice job, which I always tell him, I can't believe he did, but he quit with a job where he was certainly paid more than I necessarily can pay him, because that's what he wanted to do, is come work with us and just change people's lives. And he's been about a month and a half in there. He's had 35 men that he's talked with. He has made a great impact on many of these men. All of the results we see so far from those men have been really great. A few of them are getting ready to get out. 2 of them have gone to treatment already. And we're looking at some real exciting things happening from there. So that's been a really amazing piece of what we're doing, and the connections that James is making, including with the public defender's office and the pretrial people and the medical people. So it's been very exciting. And because because of the work we were doing there and our grow work, we were recently invited, and just last night went to the men's drug court, which is an actual municipal court. It's an actual docket on the court system that's created here, and actually it's been around for a long time. We don't hear a lot about it because there's some controversy sometimes from some people feeling like, well, why should we let people out early? They've done something wrong, maybe they shouldn't. The drug court has been very, very successful in getting some individuals who really are in a place where what happened to them caused their behavior, including their criminality, most of the time, which was related to also their substance use. So we were invited there for the first time last night. I think there were 30 gentlemen on the docket, and I think 7 of those people were referred to us. And so we made contact with them, and now we'll do a follow-up wherever either they were going out to community release or they were already released to the community. I know a couple people that will be spending some short-term time incarcerated, but we'll follow up with them then. So we're very excited to be in that program as well. So the COSAP grant keeps evolving and keeps growing, and we're real excited about that. Another program, the second program that we have is another court-related program, and it's really my roots and background. If you look, started in the courts. I was actually a probation officer in a different life and worked with the court system a lot. And so it's very exciting to be back in the courts. But we're working with the Family Treatment and Diversion Court with Juvenile Probation and Children's Services. And that court system is set up so that when families have either lost their children because they were using a substance, perhaps the police came to their home, found them, maybe they were passed out because they had used heroin, and they've taken the children away. And so the children have been made a ward of the court, or they're at risk of losing those children. They can be assigned to either the treatment court or they can be a diversion court. And the court's plan there is to try to help them through interventions to get support so they can, if in fact they are really interested, and most every one of them are, getting their children back and keeping their children. There's all kinds of services, treatment services and employment and housing support. And now they've added peer support. And we're really very pleased to be there. We have 2 women that are working in the program and 1 man who's also addressing the men that are coming in. And we're getting ready to start a group for Caroline. The group we're going to do for, I'm sorry, I can't think of it right now, but to help families that are addicted to behaviors and unhealthy behaviors. Pardon me? Codependency, thank you. A codependency group as well, because so many of those individuals could, if they weren't with someone else, if they weren't connected to a bad relationship, they probably could also make a better recovery. So we're excited about that opportunity. And then the third program that we have is also a program that has a very, very specific peer focus. And it's called Bridging the Gap. And what we found out is we were looking through different programs different research about recovery, while men, and there's a lot more of you here than women today, while men have a lot of recovery challenges and a lot of things to keeping themselves in a sober place, women have a tendency to usually have more different challenges in different areas. Being mothers, parents, keeping a job if they do have children, and sometimes in relationships. And what we're finding is that while women were doing pretty well in treatment, that leap from going to treatment to recovery in the community was where there was the greatest risk within the first 2 weeks of that woman relapsing, even more than men. And so we wrote this grant and we received funding for this program, Bridging the Gap. And the idea there was that we have peer supporters, and they're women who again have lived experiences, many of whom were also incarcerated at some time or had gone through treatment and into recovery and struggled with back to the community. We've created relationships with treatment providers and actually also the prison, DCI Women's Prison. And when they are leaving treatment or leaving DCI, having completed treatment there and going into most of the time recovery housing, which is where, different than treatment, they're not necessarily getting a lot of counseling and support there. They usually go to other places for that. And that's where they were sometimes falling off because they were back in the community. Our peer support staff get to know them, get to know what their goals are, help them create plans for how they're going to maintain their long-term sobriety. We help them identify what the barriers are. In many cases, they may not have their social security cards anymore. They may need their driver's license. They may have fines they need to pay off. They may have jobs they need to get. Sometimes they don't have their children, and we may need to help them. And what we do, a lot of it is education, advocacy, We do transportation sometimes based on being able to help them now. We do a lot of bus training, so that in other words, if someone needs to learn to ride the bus because she doesn't have a car, or we can actually have a person, actually two people that can help you learn how to ride the bus so that you can be independent, and because that's also part of recovery, learning to find your sense of self and independence. And so this program has been hugely successful. We're working on finding some more money to keep the program going, and we're hopeful for that. But the one biggest thing that has made the most impact on us and has really impressed a lot of the funders and people is the number of women. We had 36 women of the 72 that we served who relapsed, and 78% of them came back to the program immediately. That's a big difference, because most of the time when someone relapses, quite often it's embarrassing. It's very hard to go back, especially if you relapse. Sometimes the program won't take you back. When we have that happen with our women, if they want to go back, if they're interested in going back, if they really do want to get back into their recovery, we a lot of times help them and advocate for them, and very seldom ever have a program not willing to either take them back or help them back. And so we've been really, really pleased with that data. That number is really very different than most of what happens when someone has a relapse after leaving recovery or being in treatment somewhere, and they usually don't come back. So we've been excited about that. We know there's some other opportunities that are down the pike. The probation office where I was today before this is going to be opening a wing within the Ribble building, where they're going to have a lot of services right there available for their probation folks when they come in. And they've invited peer support to be part of that. So we may end up being part of that, where we'll actually have a peer there every time. And so when people are coming in to see the probation officers, or they're coming in to do whatever kinds of work they have to do, they'll actually be a peer support person right there who can make contact with them and say, hey, how you doing? And while I was a probation officer, I think I did pretty good. I don't have a lived experience. I didn't know exactly what it was like to be someone who had lived in the streets and had been trying to do anything they possibly could to, unfortunately, address that horrible addiction that never lets me forget what's happening. So we're very excited about all those services. We've got lots more. We hope that someday we're going to be able to do. It's amazing some of the things we'd love. We have an idea, again, to do some really robust job skills training by bringing in someone who has a really wonderful rehabilitation and employment background, who can help some of these women and men to really not just get a job, because the job is great. The job is absolutely great, but to even begin to look at a career, because there's nothing more rewarding than when you find that, you know what, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I wanted to do. Look at me. Not only did I do all these things and get into recovery, but now I'm doing what I want to do. So that's one of the things we have in our plan, along with a couple other things that we're really looking forward to doing when we can get a little more money and a little more staffing and a little bit more under our belts of these two new programs we started. Because Jan and I have the tendency when we get together to really be dangerous. We always want to do something because we always know there's more need. But that is our program. I know that there's tons more I could tell you, and I probably went over my time already. But I'd be glad to answer if you have any questions about what peer support might be. I would encourage you, I would say go look at our website, but it's a work in progress. We're still working on that, getting it updated. We do have a Facebook page for East End, and sometimes we will put information out there about what we do. You can imagine that what we do a lot of times with these individuals is confidential, because while we are at treatment and we are not recovery necessarily, what we do with individuals is confidential. So we don't put a lot of information out there about those we serve, but it's an exciting life. And I guess I should have said too, we also walk-ins every day, almost every single day. That's where Caroline becomes my backup too, because she's wonderful at meeting people at the front door and trying to find out what their needs are, and trying to either help them herself to get something, or getting in touch with one of our peer staff and getting them back so they can help somebody. An example, a gentleman came in the other day. He was hungry, so we got one of the frozen meals we have. We had it set up for him, and we don't have a lot of folks coming in right now, just simply because of COVID and then the concerns about space. But we gave him something to eat, and then he wanted to go to the men's shelter, and I didn't have anybody available. And so we talked with him, and I said, let me see if I can find you a ride. So I made some more calls in the community to other partners that we know, and nobody had a peer ready to do that. Well, sure enough, one of my peers happened to walk by, and I'm like, get in here and come talk to this person. And as it was, the man just wanted to go to the shelter. Okay, I'm going to take him to the men's shelter. I get a call later from my peer. Not only did he find out that the man did have an issue with addiction, he also was at that moment in time detoxing, unfortunately. So he was not feeling real good. That's why he didn't look great. He had nothing. He had no clothes, no anything. So our peer made contact with another facility that does detox and was able to take that gentleman directly to detox. Didn't go to the shelter where who knows what might have happened. The gentleman left with him, went to the detox facility. He was able to leave him there. And he also was able to go get some clothing for him because we have a wonderful relationship with the church and they have beautiful clothes that they're really wonderful about giving to people, and some of which are new and some of which are just reloved. And so it was a great day. The great thing, it's a horrible, challenging job. I don't know from day to day how the peer staff do it, to be honest with you. I don't know how they put themselves out every single day in a position like that. I heard oncology. The only thing I can sometimes imagine is like with me is if I had something like a disease and I had to go out with people that had that disease, because technically that's what it is, right? It's addiction, it's a disease. And I have to go out every day and work with people. I know it's a trigger sometimes. It could be, and it can always be something that's very challenging. So we work really hard to make sure that we really give appreciation to our peers and talk to our staff about self-care and taking good care of themselves, and always remembering that if they feel like anything, you guys need to have supporters, you guys need to have sponsors, you all need to be going to AA and NA meetings or whatever other kinds of supports you do. And but it's a real challenge, and they do great work, and there's wonderful stories and so many wonderful stories to share, and also a lot of heartbreak. So it's exciting. It's good work. We do a great job. I should say the staff do a great job, but we all take credit for it. And so is anything else? Did you want to ask a question? Yes, sir.
So you just work in the East End, and you work in other areas of Dayton?
Wherever somebody needs help, if they come and we get notified of where they are, or they walk in our building, yeah, we don't have a zip codes, just, quality there or anything we can't do. Now, occasionally, if someone is needing to be in a place where we may not be able to do it, outside of the county sometimes gets to be hard because transportation and travel is almost my highest invoice, other than personnel. It is so expensive because, I do have to pay staff if they're driving people around. So sometimes if they're going to Senior or somewhere like that, we may try to find another peer support program or support services wherever they may be. But no, we pretty much, North Dayton, West Side, whatever, Montgomery County, we go wherever we need to
I was
go.
going to ask whether there were other organizations like on the west side and up north like yours.
On the west side, they don't actually have an East End Community Services, but they have lots of other good programs, and they have two really wonderful recovery programs called the West Side Club and Dayton Fellowship, and they're really wonderful programs. In fact, one of the original founders of the Dayton Fellowship was one of our peers for a long time. He works at Goodwill now, but they have some great recovery programs, just not quite in East End yet. And that's not because we haven't thought about it. And one of these days we'll get together with another one of the organizations and do it. But Wesley Center and some of the other ones, they're all getting much better at helping individuals address some of their needs. But we still have a lot of it, lots of need. So, any other questions?
I just want the correlation between what you're doing and suicide rates, because there's been an increase, but when you have a kind of intensive, and your program is very intensive, where you get in there and really, which is very effective. What's the correlation in suicide, or have you seen a decrease?
I'm not going to say that I know to be able to tell you our data collection and our data
Okay.
processing isn't we just have a database that we're utilizing, and honestly, because we don't do intensive treatment therapy, we don't get to that level. Without doubt, and I think Caroline Wigger, without a doubt, we know that we've made interventions with people, and because
That's what I was thinking.
when you're in a bad place, like 9% of the people have co-occurring. They really do. They have mental health, which substance abuse is anyway a mental health condition.
Right.
But they have co-occurring conditions, and when your life gets to that place like that, and you're in a bad place, and because remember, it crosses all, right? There's nobody, no socioeconomic, no ethnic, no religious, racial, anything that says, oh, you're going to be more than you are. It's a thing. It's a thing for all of us to work out now. So, but the other thing is, and I'm really proud of them too, is that our peers not only do what they do, but most of them are involved in the prevention coalition here in the community. They're involved with the CODE team, which is the community opioid action team, which has 7 different branches of it now. And they're involved, so they have a lot of knowledge, they go to lots of training, I send them to advocacy for training, they've all had suicide prevention training. So, yeah, so oh, yeah, so we have a great support system that help us with all of our programs too. It is. But some great and exciting things are happening too. So, yeah, you'll see some really exciting things that are happening. We just had a meeting today about that. So, yeah, there's murals they've been painting and doing all kinds of good stuff. We're doing some things at parking garages, which you never thought about that, right? But parking garages do have soft barriers. Putting up signs even helps have people make a second choice as they get to the top if they're thinking of hurting themselves by going over the side of the parking garage. We don't have big ones here in this community, but if they're bad enough. And so there's lots and lots of really great things that are happening around that very issue. So, yes.
Karen, this was awesome. The presentation was awesome.
Very good.
And it just made me feel so wonderful to know that I'm associated with the East End Community Center all these years. Brian has been involved too. He helped put in the communication system years ago. He was marketing the phone systems and everything. He helped save East End a lot of money. And I just can't imagine how this East End or Dayton would have been without East End. There's so
I
many.
agree with you.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
From the infant to the senior, you take care of everything.
Birth to death, if you're not offended by that, and also with a huge emphasis on second generation impact. So, and we have a program we teach on Tuesday nights, which is many of the grandparents that are taking care of children because their own children had addiction, and so they have their grandchildren, and it's amazing. And the brand new program Pathways, which is working with pregnant moms, and it's just, yeah, it's amazing. I came to live there 2.5 years ago, because I used to work with Family Service Association here and worked with East End and just loved it. And the thing about, I was doing grants and all that, writing reports and things, and I was like, I don't get to do anything anymore. And Jan does so much. And so when she had an opening, she called me and said, "You want to come over?" And I said, "I'll be there." And now some days I'm not sure what I had for breakfast. And a little bit later, I may not remember what I had for lunch because it's that crazy. And there's some days I think, what did I do to myself? I'm 60 and I'm like, is this fun? I'm supposed to slow down? And I can't imagine anything any different. So it is a great place. And like I said, I live on the east side. So the things that we do are having an impact on the people that I live around and with and among. So it's a really good place. And East End has a wonderful reputation. It's so amazing to go places and have people say, "I know your boss," or "I know one of your peers," or "I know somebody that you work with," or somebody on your board. And one of the judges yesterday knows Frank. And so he knows Frank, and he said something. I said, "Oh, okay, you know Frank, he's on our board. I'm going to have to make sure I'm good." So
I just can't tell you how elated I am that they're finally getting their new facility. They're working on that. So that
yes, yeah, that's amazing because not only is it going to make a difference for the people in the neighborhood, our staff are going to feel so special to have a new building that is so beautiful and accommodates a lot of needs and provides a place for them to eat their lunch and a place where they can be a little bit quiet and just they can feel good because are we telling them?
Well, we'll wait until they announce
Yeah,
it.
we'll wait until you,
Yeah.
but very close. I'll say that. And it's, yeah, just, and we're good at taking things and fixing them up again and making them new. And so that's what I'll say. How's that?
Thank you so much.
Right, so, all right. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And you didn't even need the projector. I mean, you did great.
Yes, I really, I'm not
It's more,
usually.
it's more formal, more pleasant.
I was just afraid I was going to talk too fast. And Caroline knows
You're
I
right on time.
talk fast. I get excited. I do. I
She
do.
crammed a lot in there, like,
Very much.
I remember that.
Oh, it was nice lunch. Yeah.
Do you need us to sneak away for the rest of your meeting or?
No, whenever you want.
Let's just still adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
We can do a business meeting next time.
Okay, let me just bring up that on February 3rd, we have another luncheon here.
We have a doctor speaking. He's probably a problem.
He is.
I'm sure it's.
I will send you his bio and it'll blow your mind.
I don't need.
I did have something that
Yeah.
was meeting related. You said something about the, what was it, the young ladies in the governorship?
About the governor, I have that, it's called, All in Some.
Yes, if we're gonna donate to her, we need to make signs.
It had to be made last month, by the end of last month.
No, we could still do it by the end of this month.
Okay,
Well,
well,
in January, I saw
Okay.
that.
well, I'm, as president, I'm not allowed to do any,
Mr. Treasurer, I'm not gonna make the motion.
I'll make a motion that our Civitan Club sponsors our junior governor for how much?
How much was she short?
250.
we give her 100, they're matching it, right?
No,
I
that
think
was
that ended.
last year. We didn't do it this time, we tripled. That we do 150. And for the dance, what is it? The
All in Some.
All in Summit. That supports the research center.
Whoever's our secretary, make sure you're writing this down.
It's all on video right here, I hope.
I'm
I'll
just
send
making
you-
sure, but the motion is for $150 to go to the All in Summit donation
In her name.
in her name.
Right.
All those, do I get a second?
A second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Silence. Okay, we're good. I kind of.
Well,
I just wanna
I'm
make sure that
secretary.
before I send them in.
Didn't write that down.
Well, it's on here.
Okay.
That's right.
I'll send you
We'll talk about
the.
that stuff later.
Watch.
Yes, we'll talk about the other stuff on third. Maybe Al and Mike can show up. And David.
Al's here.
Thank you. I meant the other Al.
Do we want to have a business meeting sometime in the evening with dinner?
Right, I'll email everybody.
Okay,
See if we can get everybody together. Thank you so much. for
everybody
coming.
get these?
Very
She's
good.
gonna let me put them in my clinic to share.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely, yes,
Uh,
anytime.
For,
It's exciting to talk about, so.
Well,
for,
It's also an awful lot of work.
here,
It
just a little bit on Civitan since you're here.
Well, I directed that.
Thank you. I was gonna ask if I could
Get your money.
Actually, we choose, and then
Yeah.
we do a project with Kroger that he helped us with, that raised all our fundraising that we use for a number of organizations.
Yeah.
Then we just did a whole
Tony, Tony,
We have a new wonderful.
You seriously-
But you're
organization
much
of
more like part of
level
it.
with the
Oh,
NAMI.
this is from a small-
We have a lot of NAMI down in Arkansas. We have sites there, but we're doing a whole bunch of
Baptist church.
council that I'm on. And we're looking at ways to
And she was telling me, yeah, hey, we're meeting once a month. Why don't-
I was gonna say, what everybody needs to be aware of is, we're getting ready to celebrate our centennial. We'll be celebrating our 100th anniversary here in the next, we already are 100 years old. Our club has been in Dayton for 100 years.
October
But
25th.
we were gonna celebrate it last year, and the dreaded COVID just keeps on showing its ugly face. So we're thinking April, May time period, we're gonna have our 100th anniversary. It will be a big gala. I hope that you all will attend with spouses. It's gonna be a showstopper. We're gonna celebrate in style, but we've been serving this community for 100 years. And of those 100 years, 40 of them have been celebrated, served by the gentleman at the end of the table, which you all are gathered here today because mainly of his efforts. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is that we recognize him as much as we recognize Civitan, because we would not be here today if it weren't for him. But we will be having 100th anniversary celebration.
You talking about Tony, right?
Yeah,
Who?
not me.
You keep on saying him, I'm going like.
This other guy.
Dr. Who?
Oh.
Oh, you're too late, dude.
No, I know that's what you're talking about, but I
He
wonder,
hasn't been a member for 4
so you
years.
kept, you were looking this way, So I
Well,
was
look at
looking,
me.
Over 20 years.
okay, that's what I thought he was starting to keep on saying,
Yeah, he's been here for a while.
Well, it's
And
been.
and thank you guys for
experience
coming today.
Now
I
my
hope
husband
you'll
here.
join us again because Tony,
He's 70-something.
anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being
so
here.
much for having me.
And
Not only
Looking
notice,
back
I
Look for
just
emails.
submitted the membership.
Look for
Use
emails.
membership, and it has all of our dates.
Appreciate how long. Thank you. You're adjourned.
okay.
I did have members since 2013.
I was telling you, I was a director of the time program many